You are now listening to the Hot Take Podcast. Here are your hosts, Stephen Taroni and Josh Daly. Time to make it hot.
Oh, hey. Welcome in to this episode of the Hot Take Podcast. I am your host, Josh Daly, and you can find me on Twitter at JoshDaly72. And riding along with me on this fantastic fantasy voyage is none other than the OG of this show, Mr. Stephen Taroni. How are you, sir?
Doing great tonight, man. Yeah, excited to get started with the show here. We got a great one for you tonight. We're going to be talking about we got a little announcement. Very excited about that. We are going to get into, pretty much what the schedule of the show is going to be for the rest of the season. It's going to be a little different tonight. We're going to talk some over-under, and we're going to give it to you in a shorter show, and we're excited to give you that for the 2021 season.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are bringing a guest on, of course, and we will get to our announcement a little bit later, but want to be courteous and welcome him aboard. Nice meeting you this past weekend, sir, at the Fantasy Football Expo. And I'm referring to Mark Shue of Primetime Mock and the brand new Fantasy Football Fantasy Football. Mark, I already screwed it up, man, but welcome to the show, brother. And thanks for joining us.
It's good, Josh. Thanks for having me. Oh, great meeting you, Steve. It's great meeting you. Steve has already been on my show a couple times. Josh, we're going to have to rectify that and make sure that you're on sometime soon.
For sure.
So happy to get to meet you this weekend, and I'm so pumped to be here on the Hot Take Podcast. To be honest, I might be the coldest take guy you could get on a Hot Take Podcast, but I'm here and I'm ready to lay it down for you.
Well, you know what? I mean, everyone's all about the hot takes, right? I mean, it's not like when we started the Hot Take Podcast, we were the first one to ever say a hot take, but
sure,
nobody gives cold takes, So like in itself, that's a hot take, Mark.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if my cold takes are cold. I'm just like that. I'm the warm blanket take guy who could just be like, yeah, that could happen. Sure. I can see that happening in some situation too. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, Mark lukewarm shoe.
That's
right.
It's all good, man. Everybody needs encouragement. So it's good to have that going. But, I was really excited. Of course, found out that Mark is a fellow Moscow Mule enthusiast. So definitely on the same page with my guy Mark on that one. And it's nice when someone appreciates the finer things in life like we do.
Oh, I definitely am a mule fan. I had a few too many mules. I think I'm on a detox this week, guys. My voice went down like a whole 2 octaves. I think it's back up.
Yes.
It's back up to maybe 1 octave. But I still got a ways to climb before I can get back to my full voice. I got a show tomorrow. Hopefully I get there by then.
Well, it does happen when you're double fisting, my friend, and you may or may not have been doing that. I just wanted to throw that out there. So
yeah, Lord Don't Lose on Twitter, Lawrence Jackson Jr. He put out that fantasy things or rules to live by for the expo. Yes. His official. I've called them the unofficial rules of the expo. And the first one was don't drink like you're back in high school. And for 40 to 45 minutes at a time, I forgot that. And then usually I just bust out a nap. Like I missed dinner on Saturday.
Josh, we didn't break that rule. I'm not going to lie. We were pretty moderate with it. And we enjoyed ourselves. You had your mule. I had a shot of tequila with my guy, Dr. Berm.
Word.
So, but you know what? You get right about the voice. We were joking this weekend. This week would be the week where everyone just sounds so raspy. It's going to be like Amy Winehouse concert. Like every podcast, just everyone's lost their voice.
I woke up in like the 20 minutes after like my morning shower on Sunday. I was like, things are going to be okay. And then like you got into the expo and there's like 200 people just in the hall, in any room you're in essentially. And I was just like, well, this is over.
Yep.
And of course I was shouting out fantasy football the entire time. So I had to make that happen. And so the voice was gone like the next 20 minutes.
Well, Mark, that's one of the reasons we had you on, man. We wanted you to talk about that real quick before we kind of get into the over-unders here and making a little announcement. But first, real quick, if you can, tell us kind of how you got started playing fantasy, and then tell us about the fantasy football.
Sure. Well, I actually started playing fantasy after college. I had some fraternity brothers. I'm formerly of a fraternity, but I still have some of the friends there. And we had started a fantasy league. I honestly didn't pay all that much attention. I was really more paying attention to the Giants at the time. But my first start into fantasy football, I really kind of sucked. I was probably that guy that like everybody now really like, the stigma guy that everybody hates like in their fantasy league. I was probably that guy who like wasn't paying attention and then like traded their best player to the best team and like ruined the league. That might have been me that first couple of years.
Ooh,
but after a few
yikes.
years, I took a hiatus. I really, I think I deserved it. Right. But after a few years, I came on back. Got into it with a few more friends. I actually ended up rejoining that fraternity league as well because I started to become more obsessed, started listening to more podcasts. I found the football guys, and I've been listening to them for going on 10 years now. From there, I listened to more podcasts, got on Twitter, started talking to more people, and finding more interesting leagues. I always want to be a commissioner of my own league. I always try and find a way to make something new that I haven't experienced yet with fantasy football and just reach my way out and then find some other people who are willing to sort of take that journey with me. I started a contract league a few years back, and oh my God, it is my favorite league that I have ever been in. And it will be my favorite league for a very long time. And I'm so fortunate to have a really great group of guys that I've put together. It's a 14-team super flex league. It's competitive as hell. It makes me so angry that I love it.
Well, that's how you know you like it. That's how you know it's good too.
Right.
That's right.
Well,
that's awesome.
And I'm the reigning champ of that league, so hopefully I can
Nice.
make it work. But I'm in trouble this year, guys.
Well, Mark, when I was on your show, you were talking about you were interested in a guillotine league. So there you go. I mean, Josh, we were in the guillotineleagues.com writers league last year, and we'll be again this year. It should be fun again. And, I think it's when you have, like, for us who play super flex leagues or regular, like, one quarterback leagues, if, most of you listening are probably doing such, when you get into these kind of leagues, it really is like, I'm learning something. I'm taking away a lot.
Sure.
And I'm, it's interesting because, like, you get this budget and every week there are great waiver wires. If you don't know what a guillotine league is, obviously you lose if you have the lowest point total in a week, and so your waivers are stacked with a complete roster. So it's very interesting how to play that.
Yeah, weekly lowest point total gets chopped, and then you basically have kind of the fruits of that whole team. It's like a little expansion draft every week, and it was fun as hell. So I'm looking forward to doing something like that. I love that idea. But Mark, how'd you get the idea for fantasy football?
Well, I am, and I really hate to admit this because my wife is probably low key just a little bit listening upstairs. And she has really over the past few years just turned me on to reality TV in general, and I hate it. Like I hate loving it, but oh my God, I love Big Brother. Ryan Hallam at Fighting Chance Fantasy, he has a Big Brother league right now, and I'm first place of 72 contestants. And anyway, honestly, what I love about reality TV is the twists. It's so fake, right? It's there's all this involved, but also when you watch those competitive shows, and it could be anything like the Great British Baking Show to Chopped, or it could be any sort of reality show, Big Brother, Survivor. There's always something fun involved with the drama of that week to week. Who's going home? We don't really know. And just like those guillotine leagues, I've always been interested in a guillotine league. It turns out that I'm doing the Scott Fishbowl guillotine satellite for the Fishbowl next year. I got into the fishbowl this year last minute, and I got into guillotine league. So hopefully I'm okay there. And I'll
buzzer beater. You pulled a buzzer
I'll
beater.
secure my spot for next year. That's all. I won't need Scott's invitation next year. But anyway, back to fantasy football. So we're going to take all those twists that you see in your favorite reality show and try to apply them to fantasy football. Make the game more of a game. That's why it's fantasy. It slowly moved its way, because reality isn't reality. It moved itself away from reality, actually. So now we're even further removed from reality. We're playing a game about a game at this point. The way fantasy football works is you're going to draft your own team. It's going to be an eliminator style team, very much like a guillotine. And then Thursday night, everybody's going to play in a DFS showdown. What happens from there, the winner of that DFS showdown, they are going to be safe for the week. They'll accrue some more points throughout the week and have some other opportunities to win, different twists that might happen on a week-to-week basis, but they're safe for the week. The rest of the players play in this gauntlet that goes from Thursday to Sunday. Their Monday night players are ineligible. And after Sunday night, we find the lowest scores. It might be 3 people some weeks. It might be 8 people some weeks. It might be 2 people some weeks. We take those lowest scores, we put them in a Monday night showdown, and the loser of that goes home. And there's all sorts of different twists and turns that we're going to have along the way. We are still accepting applicants. If you want, you can find a pinned tweet on my Twitter account that you can sign up right now if you wanted. And all you got to do is submit a 5-minute video and tell us why you want to be in the league. We're really excited about it. I'm doing it with my buddy Chris Moshinsky. He's going to be doing the commissioner side of it. I'm going to be putting the production of everything together. I've been having a blast putting together some of the promos for some of the contestants that have already been selected. It's really been a blast. So I hope that everybody can enjoy fantasy football this year. It's kind of a pilot season for us. We're trying to just establish proof of concept, but I think we've got a really cool thing going here. And I think everybody out there, even if you don't like fantasy, I think you're going to love it.
That's awesome, man. I think that's a killer idea. And who knows, man, it could get super popular. And then like everybody could see it on TV when they're in bed getting, at night, not bed sleepers, but TV watchers.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, we talked about that. I'm a notorious TV sleeper. If anybody didn't hear before we started the show, I'm a notorious TV sleeper. So if you fall asleep to fantasy football in a few years, just know that I am there rooting for you in that journey. Okay.
That's fantastic, man. Mr. Tironi, we're doing an over under segment here. It's basically going to be the bulk of our show this evening. So the way basically that we're going to be going about and doing this is kind of inspired by little breaking news, I guess we should drop here.
Breaking news.
Yeah. Would you like to kind of fill everyone in on what's going on?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. We this year are taking the hot take in a kind of a different direction. We're still going to give you guys an episode that you're used to every week with a guest, an awesome guest like Mark. And we are going to do, we're going to get you ready for your week. But in addition to that, we're going to have a second show. So yeah, that's a big deal for us. So what we're doing is we're doing a second show, and we are partnered with Thrive Fantasy. So if you're not familiar with Thrive, actually just go on the show. They're actually partnered with the Jacksonville Jaguars, the official daily sports and esports platform and app of the Jaguars. What they do over there is a daily fantasy platform, just like DraftKings or FanDuel. And what you're also getting is the ability to play player props and over under. Spoiler alert, that's what we're about to do. But
weird.
What we're going to do is we're going to break that down for you too, so you can win some money. If you were fortunate enough to be in a breakout session over the weekend at the Fantasy Football Expo, you would know how important player props and are really. We were in a breakout session led by a bunch of guys in the business that do sports gambling and run, websites that provide that sort of service. namely Eric Froton of NBC Sports Edge. And I'm telling you, it was a 30-minute breakout session, and 25 of those minutes we were discussing player props. It's big. It's how you can win money, and Thrive Fantasy, you can do it over there. We're really excited to be partnered with them.
Yeah,
can I just step in and say how awesome that is for you guys? I'm really so happy for you that this is happening. I mean, sports betting really is the way that sports is leaning. Fantasy and sports betting. I mean, and having a place like Thrive on your team is huge. So congrats to both of you.
Yeah, and our buddy Eric said it best, man. The world is changing, and that's never been more true. And the show, I mean, we're kind of basing over unders. I mean, we're giving you this is going to be a season long snapshot today. So I mean, these are things that you can still carry with you into your season long drafts and things like that, where you kind of get an idea of how high or low we are on a player. But we are very excited to kind of start working together here with Thrive, and of course we are going to bring you guys a little promotions action, basically instant 100% deposit match up to $100 for new users. And it's getting pretty heavy. It's $100,000 guaranteed contest in week one. You guys can use the promo code Hot Take, and we'll be sure to drop that in the show notes here for the podcast, wherever you have found our lovely show today. So that way you guys can get on there and check that out. So do yourself a favor and download the Thrive Fantasy app and use promo code Hot Take. And again, get your instant 100% deposit match bonus up to $100 for new users for setting that up. Again, that's promo code Hot Take, HOTTAKE, all one word. All right. Over unders. Again, this is the game. Really, really simple. We will throw it to our guest Mark first. We're going to go position by position, starting with the quarterbacks here. And we have Aaron Rodgers on the board, 4,550 passing yards. Are you going over or under?
I'm going to smash that over, I think. If this was a 16 game season, I still would probably take it. But since it's a 17 game, and I do think that Aaron Rodgers is going to need to use, he's going to need to use his arm and throw a lot this season. I will smash that over.
Professor?
Personal.
Ooh, you know what, man? I think I'm going to go under, actually. I think it's going to be close, but I'm actually going to – this is the first one. I'm doing overs all day here, but this one I'm going under. He typically doesn't get around that range, actually. So he can be very good for fantasy, around 4,400 yards.
Yeah, last year, just 1 yard shy of 4,300 passing yards in a 16-game season in which he played the whole year. So 4,550, I'm also going to go under.
And he's like, go get Randall Cobb. I want to throw it short.
Unders are definitely our friend. Yes. And then I think there's going to be a little more screen game action maybe involved. So you don't lock up a running back unless you plan on getting him involved on all three downs. So moving on to running backs here, Alvin Kamara, 80.5 receptions. No, that's not actually the total. He's always like at 81 catches. I just threw that out there, but realistically, how close do you guys think he would get, to 81 catches? What about you first, Steve?
It's really tough because of the quarterback. I think if it was Winston, I would be tempted to smash the over, actually. Like if I knew it was Winston, and, take into account that Michael Thomas isn't going to be there for the first month, maybe more.
Yeah.
And at which case, maybe even with Taysom, it doesn't matter. So, I think I wanted to say under, like initially, but I just really don't know the quarterback right now. Until I do, it's hard to say. But I think I would lean under if it was Taysom.
So you're saying all bets are off until the quarterback battle is actually played out?
For sure. And I don't want it to be a cop-out because it would make a difference. But I think what makes things interesting is Michael Thomas not being there. So regardless of who's the quarterback, maybe Taysom does dump it down. But when it comes down to it, and I think it will be Taysom, a lot of times he's going to call his own number. He's going to run the ball, so that really will take away a lot of check down. So I would lean under with Taysom.
Yeah, no doubt. let's go to the next one here. Mark, Travis Etienne, I'm kind of getting tricky here with these reception props for the running backs, but Travis Etienne sitting at 44.5. Just based off of 1 week of preseason against the Browns, I really don't know if that's, realistic with how much the other running backs were involved. What do you think about that situation in 44.5 catches for Etienne?
I think if he reaches his maximum potential, this is an over smash, but I don't necessarily think that that's what's going to be happening this year. I think James Robinson is going to get a lot more work than people think, and obviously that has nothing to do necessarily with receptions. But he was a pretty good pass catcher for them last year. If he continues to stay on the field, he could eat into that. And I am sure that they're going to find all sorts of fun, crazy ways. I'm sure that Urban Meyer is going to come up with some crazy fun schemes to turn his running back, who he wishes was Kadarius Toney, into the guy that he wants him to be. But I also don't necessarily know if Urban Meyer is the guy suited to make that happen in the NFL. If this was Sean McVay drafting ETN and saying that, oh yeah, I'm going to get my screen guy, my running back that they're trying to make out of ETN, I would say, yeah, go for it. But I think there is still a lot that he does need to work on in his game. He was great for Clemson, but a lot of times when you're the running back for Clemson, there are a lot of open holes for you to capitalize on, and a lot of running backs can do that. But I don't necessarily think that he always had the vision that people were looking for, that would be looking for him to really, keep him on the field long enough to really make 45 happen. A lot of these props for Jacksonville have me worried.
Real quick, some either ors here at the running back position, similar yardage totals. One which I think is definitely a smash for the over, and one that I think is a little more questionable. But we have Gus Edwards here at 600 yards and Chase Edmonds at 650 rushing yards. Mark, which would you be more comfortable taking on those, and which way would you lean?
Is it weird that I'm taking Gus Edwards over the Edmonds here? 600 for Edwards over Edmonds?
No, it's not weird at all, man. I mean, three straight seasons of 700 yards.
That's what I mean. I feel like Gus Edwards is more likely to lock in 600 and literally maybe only 600, but I could almost guarantee he's getting that. Whereas Chase Edmonds, I feel like he could put up 3 games and just never see the field again. He could put up 3 games that are duds, and then he'd never touch the field, or and James, or if James Conner took it away, we already know that Dobbins is the lead guy in Baltimore, and we still kind of think about Edwards as a guy who's going already not that far behind Chase Edmonds in ADP at this point. And though I like Chase Edmonds, I don't really know how I feel about him as a rusher. I think he's got, he can get you some yardage as a pass catcher, but it's, again, I could see from Arizona, especially with Kyler being a runner already, I could definitely see that becoming a way more ambiguous backfield than everybody wants to think about.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's definitely a lot to consider here. I was going to do another either or on the running backs, but we're kind of, like I said, new show format. So we're trying to keep it a little bit short. So I apologize. We're going to kind of go a little bit quicker and just skip to the wide receivers now here. First up, one that I really like the over on, and one that I really like the under on. Talking about Antonio Brown, 5.5 receiving touchdowns, and DJ Chark, 5.5 receiving touchdowns. I'm over on AB and under on DJ Chark. Professor, where do you stand on this 5.5 receiving touchdown total for Antonio Brown and Chark?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I'm not so sure on Chark. I'm definitely sure on AB. It just makes too much sense. The only way he doesn't get 6 touchdowns this year is if he just decides he doesn't want to play for the Bucks and they have to cut him or something like that. You know?
Oh, he's never done anything crazy like that.
Yeah, or barring injury. I mean, it just feels like 6 is a lock. DJ Chark, yeah, I would lean under, but I would be more on the fence with that one.
Yeah, he was really good last year in his limited time with the Bucks. Very, very productive. So definitely, I mean, say what you want about the guy off the field, but on the field, he's still a freaking beast. DJ Chark, meanwhile, has been running with like the 2s, and there's word that Colin Johnson might actually be starting opposite Marvin Jones and Laviska Shenault in 3 wide receiver sets. So definitely something to kind of be concerned with here. Mark, I'm going to throw it to you for this next one. Got a rookie, and then we have a vet. Jaylen Waddle is set up for 750 receiving yards. Do you like the over-under on that, or would you rather bet over-under on Tyler Lockett getting even 1,000?
Man, I want to take Jaylen Waddle so bad in this one. He really is. He's my rookie wide receiver 2 in Dynasty right now. I love Waddle. God, give me Lockett though. I think give me Lockett.
and I want to get Steve's input on this too, because when we were at the expo in the car in transit to some leisurely activities, he asked me when I was on the clock, like every time was like, oh, I'm up on my best ball draft here on Underdog, and Steve says, is Jaylen Waddle available? So
I was so torn apart in draft night out. Mark, we ran into each other a couple times during that. That was fun. That was a great time. We were just like all in our element.
Yeah.
But it was my pick, and Devontae Smith was still on the board, and I just have Devontae ranked ahead of him, and it just makes so much more sense for the target share. I had a hard time, man, but I really wanted Waddle there, but I couldn't do it. So I picked Devontae, but I'm all low. I love Jaylen Waddle this year. So
the problem for me,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
But I just, to wrap up real quick, Tyler Lockett at 1,000 is just, it's just a lock. No pun intended.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're not thinking fantasy here, because that 1,000-yard receiver is going to be a bumpy road for sure, right? But it's going to be there. You've got to think that Lock. I mean, there are games where Lockett will put up like 300 yards, but there are always that couple that he has duds. But I think it's almost a guaranteed lock that he's going to, especially with 17 games. A lot of these props look very juicy with 17 games, I got to say.
Yeah, 2 straight years of 1,000 yards for Lockett and 965 in 14 games started. But I mean, this guy for the last 3 years is just healthy. He's out there. So he's one of those guys, when we talk about the season, I think, a lot of times we're going to see guys resting, like a Nick Chubb on a given week, just because they have Kareem Hunt with the 17-game season. And maybe he's on the injury report and, but he could play. Maybe he wouldn't play in a certain situation. Tyler Lockett's one of those guys. As long as he's healthy, he's probably going to be out there.
And, for Waddle, again, I do believe in him, and I even believe that he'll be productive this year. It'll probably be a back end of the season sort of thing, though. He might, it might take some time to get acclimated out of the gate. That always happens. I mean, if he lights up the first 2 games, it's like, oh my God, we were all so wrong on this. But I do love Jaylen Waddle, but I just have a hard time betting on a rookie. Crossing 800 yards for a rookie is really difficult. I mean, we saw Justin Jefferson do it, but it does not happen often. It almost never happens. It almost never happens, even with the best receivers best career receivers you can think of. It just doesn't happen all that often.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just talking about rookie receivers here. Another one I wanted to talk about was Elijah Moore and his 57.5 reception total, but for this purpose of time, we can skip that one. I think I'd like to circle back to that one maybe next week or the week after. But a couple props that I personally found super hard to find, really had to dig for these, and I would love to see where you guys set the line on this. Jacoby Myers reception total and Terrace Marshall touchdown totals for the year. Professor, any idea where you would personally set those reception and touchdown totals?
Man, Jacoby with Cam Newton as the quarterback, I would say that's probably at 4.5. 5.5, but with Mac Jones, that's a sneaky one right there. So if the perceived touchdown totals with Cam Newton and you think the Mac Jones can be the quarterback, yeah, you might want to take that one. Terrace Marshall, I would say 7.5, 6.5.
Mark,
It
what do you
would
think?
be more at like 5.5, maybe 6, but I think it should be at 7 or 8.
Mark,
hold on. So 8 TDs. Sorry, my fault. Real quick, Steve, did you know that from week 7 on, Jacoby Myers was top 15 in receptions through the end of the year? And that was with Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham.
Oh.
So I wouldn't necessarily sleep on Myers. I might and to be honest, if I'm going to put Myers at like 65 receptions, and even then I might be smashing that over. I know that they just put some money into getting their Boston TE party. But even in their best years with the 2 tight end sent back to Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, Wes Welker was the one out targeting both of them on a weekly basis, even in the best years. And often he was out targeting both of them together combined for most of those games. Now, I understand that Cam Newton wasn't all that great last year. Even if he plays a few games, I think the shoulder is probably a little better, so we might get a little better version of Cam as a passer this year. But with Mac Jones, and again, they've always had that blue collar receiver who plays a lot of slot, much like Welker, much like Edelman. Jacoby Myers is very much in that mold, former quarterback. And if you really watched him play last year on a really just horrible Patriots team by design, by the way, Jacoby Myers was, he was a wide receiver too, basically from week 8 on. If you look back on him,
I love the conspiracy theory kind of thing right there. I like that. But wait, hold on. Was the prop 4.5 reception TDs, Josh?
Just receptions for Jacoby Myers season long.
Like total receptions?
Reception total for the season.
I thought it was touchdowns.
Yeah, 4.5. I was like, that is so disrespectful.
Yeah, is this for a game? Like,
I really thought that just the Cam slander was an overdrive.
And I told you, I'm not a hot take guy, guys, but man, Jacoby Myers, man, he's gonna find this and be so upset. I'm not on this guy. I'm not on this, Jacoby. If you are listening, I love you, man. I do think that he'll be good this year. He's definitely a valuable flex, and he might have higher production.
Let's say that 4.5 was receptions per game. That would be an interesting one. I would go over on that.
I'd probably go over on that.
Yeah. So if that was a full 17 game season, you're talking 76.5 catches there for a 17 game season. I'm comfortable betting anything 69 or lower. Nice. But even if you do take away, say he misses a game off that 4.5 catches per game pace, he's still getting to 72, which I think is a comfortable over there.
Into 70s, I'd still smash that over, I think.
Yeah, they're talking about trading in N'Keal Harry. It looks like Jacoby Myers should be, 1 in receptions there as far as wide receivers.
Again, wide receiver 2 with no receiving touchdowns. He did have 2 passing touchdowns, by the way, out past Cam Newton in the touchdown category last year. But again, he is, whether you like it or not, he's going to be a big part of their offense. They love Jacoby Myers up there.
Yeah, and lastly, for Terrace Marshall Jr., I'm comfortable. I think he's a big red zone threat, and I'm comfortable betting anything 6 or over.
I like the lines.
6 or under. But I like the over on anything 6 touchdowns or less.
I like the line at 6.5, and I actually think I'd take the over.
There you go.
I like Terrace Marshall a lot, and I think actually the touchdowns are going to be the thing for him. I don't actually know if he's going to be all that fantasy relevant, but I think he's going to have like 3 40-yard bombs that are just going to connect, and then he'll probably have a couple more that we're not even thinking about. Especially if this is overall touchdowns, yeah, I like this a lot.
I appreciate you stopping by here, Mark, to basically go over some of these over and unders here that we have here. And big shout out to Thrive Fantasy again. Professor, any final thoughts here before we sign off?
Yeah, thanks to our guest, Mark. Really excited to bring you guys a different perspective from the fantasy football. With player props, you can apply a lot of what you learn on the show, what you're experiencing in your lineups every week. You can apply that to player props. It's a very easy transition. So we're really excited moving forward. And we didn't even mention, Josh, Dr. Berman.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Berman's going to be joining us for these episodes. So if you had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Berman, that's my friend Dan Berman, who came with us to the Fantasy Football Expo, hit it off with Denny Carter, by the way. They were just like loving each other. It was a sight to see. So he's going to be joining us for these Friday shows. So very excited. And then thanks again to our guest for coming on the show tonight, Mark Shu.
Guys, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, 100%, Mark. And just remind the people real quick where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Primetime Mock. You can always find that on YouTube too, Primetime Mock. I do a Thursday night draft show every week. We do a different mock, different style mock. Tomorrow night, we're doing a Devi mock. We got some great guests lined up for there. I don't want to shout out too many of them because I don't want to forget any of them. But we're very excited about that. And then Fantasy Football, you can find that Twitter handle at Fantasy FFB Show. You can sign up for that tonight if you want. Again, sending a 5-minute video, just why you want to be in the league. We've already got some great promos out there tonight, this past couple days, and I've been editing like crazy trying to get this thing going. So if you're interested in it, come on and check it out. I'll send the info to you if you want to put it in the show notes as well.
Excellent. Well, Mark, thanks again for stopping by, man. I appreciate it. So for myself, Josh Daly, for the OG, Stephen Tironi, this has been the Hot Take Fantasy Football Podcast.